The new tax plan is finally approved. All the bickering in Washington got something done. And I see 4 key pieces of legislation to come out in that plan that's going to directly affect the housing market. Check out episode 46 of Tom's Take right now to learn about them and what it means for consumers. Welcome to episode 46 of Tom's Take. I'm Tom Toole, and I'm here to go over what the new tax plan means for the real estate market with 4 key pieces of legislation that came out of it. So the first, and what I'll do actually is run through the 4 changes and then talk about what they mean. So the first is the mortgage interest deduction changed from having a limit of $1 million in mortgage debt to now a limit of $750,000 in mortgage debt. What that means is that the interest paid on those loans up to $750,000 is now tax deductible. That's down from $1 million. The positive here is that originally the House and the Senate wanted $500,000 versus $1 million, and they met in the middle and kept the deduction a little higher. Second change is the standard deduction doubled to $12,000 for an individual, $18,000 for a head of household, and $24,000 for a joint filer. So what the standard deduction is, it's the amount of money that anyone can just take off of their tax returns and deduct from their taxable income, regardless if they're itemizing or not. Now, this isn't going to affect as many people as what the perception may be. According to the most recent IRS data, 68.5% of all the tax filers chose the standard deduction. So not being able to itemize may not be as big of a deal as once thought when you actually look at the data. It's only really affecting about 1/3, not even, but really right around 1/3 of the people that filed their taxes. There's less of a reason to itemize your deduction. The third change is there's now a $10,000 cap on state and local tax deductions. So if your property taxes are higher than $10,000, you can't deduct the whole thing. And lastly, this was something that didn't happen, and I'm really happy that it didn't. Capital gains exemption on the sale of a principal residence. It's up to $250,000 of the gain for an individual filer and up to $500,000 of the gain for a joint filer. Right now, there's a limit that you have to live in a property 3 out of the past 5 years for it to qualify for this exemption. They were toying with the idea of making that time frame to qualify 5 out of the past 8 years. That's a big difference. So I'm very happy to hear that nothing changed there, and that's really good news for anyone that owns a home right now or just bought a property in the past year or two and is thinking about making a move, buying something else, or maybe liquidating a property they've been renting out for a year. So what does all this stuff mean here? And let's start with the mortgage interest deduction. So what that means is that we're going to likely see the high-end market soften a bit, because buyers may be less likely to jump up to that next upgrade where they're having to mortgage north of $750,000. It's not a guarantee. I'm not an accountant, but logic would dictate that's what would happen because of that change going from $1 million down to $750,000. The standard deduction, it's going to cause a lot of less people to itemize their tax deductions. And again, that's only about 1/3 of the tax filers that are out there. So I went a little deeper and pulled some research from Curbed. It's a website that looks at local housing markets across the country. And in our marketplace, the greater Philadelphia area, when you look at all these things, when it came to the itemizing, only 14.4% of the tax filers that are out there, it made sense for them to itemize their deduction. And that's in our market. Obviously, nationally, it's very different. So we're seeing that the standard deduction is going to help a lot of people under the new tax plan, where most of them are going to get a better or a lower taxable income because of this increase to the standard deduction. For the mortgage interest deduction, only 3.2% of the homes in our marketplace, and again, this is Bucks County, Chester County, Philadelphia, Delaware County, Montgomery County, all very diverse. 3.2% of all the homes are worth more than $750,000. So again, doesn't affect as many people as you think. And lastly, when it comes to the cap on taxes and what can be written off, only 6.5% of all the homes in our market have taxes higher than $10,000. Now, we are not in New Jersey or New York where their property taxes are significantly higher. So this is going to affect people a lot differently. The best thing I can tell you here is with these three changes, obviously the fourth thing that didn't happen is great for everyone. Talk to an accountant, get some advice on your situation, and if you need a referral for a great accountant, talk to your realtor, talk to someone who you know and trust who can put you in touch with the right person who's going to be able to navigate this tax plan appropriately to get you the most tax savings. That's really what it's going to come down to. These things aren't going to change. It's going to have an effect on the market. We might see a little bit more softness in the high end. We also might see people shying away from homes with higher taxes. So think new construction, for example, where the taxes are almost always higher. So those things may change. But what we know is that fundamentally, when you rent a property versus buying a home, when you rent a home, you're paying somebody else's mortgage. And I never want to be doing that. So think about this, take this information and talk to your accountant and find out exactly how it's going to affect you, because everyone's income bracket's going to be different, their property's going to be different. There's a lot of specifics here. Overall, probably not going to have a huge effect on the market except for what I mentioned. And certainly if you got specific questions about your needs, you know where to contact us. Comment below, ping us on social, and we'll talk to you next week on Tom's Take. Thanks for watching.